Today on the podcast, we have some really, really juicy drama in AI as per usual. And we'll be talking about ways that we think you can probably monetize this to make some money. Here on the AI Hustle podcast, we're going to be talking about Apple and Meta, two behemoths in the tech space that have been cutthroat, trying to do everything they can to kind of destroy each other, it feels like, for the last 5 years. And now we may be seeing a new leaf turned over as there's rumors that Apple and Meta are going to be partnering on an AI deal. This is something that I could not have predicted 2 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago. But today, hearing this news, I'm like, yeah, no duh, this is kind of what Apple has to do. So I think this is interesting. We'll be breaking down a little bit about what's going on in this deal. But Jamie, what are your initial thoughts when you saw this?
I think this is super interesting because I never thought that I would see Meta and Apple do anything together again after in 2021 when it was basically a security concern. Apple wanted to not allow Facebook to track them via the Facebook Pixel. Am I correct with that, Jaeden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that basically caused huge issues for both Meta and advertisers wanting to target people. But at the same time, Apple was looking out for their customers and didn't want to just share their data with anybody. So one interesting piece of information from this article about the partnership is that it said when they were talking, Apple was talking with OpenAI, ChatGPT was not going to be allowed to collect any user data and has to delete chat histories once the user has finished interacting with it. And to me, that is a little bit of a detriment to ChatGPT because, a lot of times it relies on previous data to give you, new information
Right.
and things where now,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be able to do that. So maybe that's why they decided to partner with Meta. I don't know. What do you think about it, Jaeden?
Yeah, well, I think that maybe it's a little bit less exciting and dramatic than everyone's making it out to seem. I think essentially when they announced Apple Intelligence recently, which is this AI that's going to be embedded into the iPhone that's going to help you do a lot of stuff, they said, yes, we're partnering with OpenAI. And they said in the future, we'll have other AI models on there that you can choose between. So my assumption is what's actually going on here is they're probably good. And in the past, I kind of had talked about partnerships with Google Gemini, but it didn't seem to have materialized, at least not in time for the last announcement. But my assumption here is really what this partnership is it's going to allow the phone to run Llama, but it's also going to be able to run Gemini, Llama, ChatGPT, and probably Anthropic's Claude. I haven't heard any rumors about Anthropic specifically. My assumption is kind of the biggest AI models are all going to start having this ability. It's kind of like when you get a new iPhone and you pick what your default browser is. Or not default browser, because I guess they try to just give you Safari, but like your default search engine, right? So by default, it's Google, but you can go and switch it to be, I don't know, Bing or something. And my assumption is it's kind of going to be like that. Like maybe it's going to be by default OpenAI because they did this big hoorah at the thing and had OpenAI as like the big highlighted partner. But you probably can choose to switch it to Llama or Claude or whatever. And all of those are going to be called partnerships. They have to work out these special things. Like you mentioned, they have to work out special deals and ways of in using this technology that aren't just an API, because with a standard API, there's all of these security issues that could happen and privacy issues that might not be up to Apple's kind of they're like high bar or whatever. So things like you're mentioning with OpenAI, where it's like you got to delete all of the data and chats and stuff. And that also has had a lot of criticism because people are saying it only really works if you're asking it a question that's been trained into the model. But if you're asking it something that's like on the internet, then technically OpenAI gets that outside of the secure server, secure silicone, Apple, whatever thing they got going on. Apple silicone server security. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I think this is probably, maybe it's a little bit less dramatic than it sounds. And it's just like another AI model that they're allowing on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, and one thought that went through my head is that most people, the average consumer, they're going to use, I mean, the top three apps on their phone are going to be, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, So like those are going to be the most interacted with tools. And so if they can make some really cool, consumer friendly little AI widgets, partnering with Meta, there could become more, I feel like maybe excitement around the idea. Like I've heard the whole idea of AI generated emojis, that you can send and stuff like that. So I think maybe they're going to try to work the social angle and kind of try to make it maybe more fun of an experience for people with AI and Meta. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One thing that people are talking about, because they're like, yeah, they're talking about. So I guess there has been some talks or alleged talks. I mean, this is all leaks, right? They aren't very public with things, but with Anthropic and Perplexity, that's not shocking, right? It's just take the top 10 AI companies. They're probably looking at or talking to all of them. Um, but one thing that someone brought up is kind of the revenue model for these partnerships and what that would look like. And I thought that this was kind of interesting. They said that, the partnership may involve offering premium subscriptions to AI services through Apple's platforms, with Apple taking a commission on sales. No direct payment terms have been discussed. So this is interesting because when you have like Apple having an app on their platform or whatever, or in the ecosystem, Apple takes a 30% commission from all major applications for just being on, for being on iOS. And I know, like, whatever, if for everyone that's mad at me and it's like, it's less, yeah, okay. If you make less than $1 million a year, it's only 15%. So I have an app that falls into that category, Self Pause. But so I'm very well aware of what's going on in the industry. But like, let's be honest, I'm a major normal company that's got a lot of employees that make more than $1 million. So they're all paying 30%. So for a lot of apps, all the major apps, they're paying 30%. And I would be really interested to see what it looks like if they actually have like the premium, right? Because right now OpenAI is going to be offering for free, and it's just like they're giving people OpenAI for free in exchange for kind of the publicity or exposure. So this seems like an interesting, you could chalk it up to a marketing play, but that is going to be insanely expensive to give every iPhone user a GPT-4o for free. So I don't know if other companies are going to be able to foot that sort of bill. It seems crazy. And so at some point, you might have these premium ones where it's like you could choose to have Perplexity as your default platform, but you got to have Perplexity Premium, so you're paying for that. And at that point, I'm sure Apple is going to be, for kind of facilitating and making that setup easy, they're going to be taking 30% of all Perplexity's money, which is interesting because right now the big hot thing is AI, and it's like it sort of looks like Apple's finding a way to beyond just like taking 30% of like apps like revenue, they're like grabbing 30% of all these AI companies revenue, which I think could be a massive boost to their bottom line in the future. So this could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how it'll all play out, especially with the cybersecurity concerns. I mean, one of the demos they did at the Apple release of iOS 18 was they talked about being able to reference really old text messages or find this photo of me and my wife in Cabo, and it goes back and it finds that picture and pulls it up for you. You're almost giving it permission to look through your phone with your voice. So it's like, I don't know, how does that play out with the data security and which company, how secure, like what's the most secure company that Apple could work with? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if they do either.
Yeah, I think it's what they're trying to figure out, and it seems like beyond just like most secure company or whatever they're doing, like they're trying to make these custom deals, and so it's gonna be really interesting to see how this plays out. But overall, I am excited by the prospect of, obviously, and not just being Apple's AI that they made, but they're kind of letting you pick through a bunch of like top of the line companies, because at the end of the day, like you with the news we just got from Anthropic's Claude coming out with a major new model that's kind of beating ChatGPT, like you kind of want to be on the best model, and so if they can't really be stuck with one company or even themselves when all these other models are going to be better, I think it would be a detriment to them. I think they've seen from Siri kind of floundering, and it was a useless tool for a long time unless you're trying to set a timer. That's the only thing people seem to use Siri for. So other than setting a timer, it seems like it wasn't that useful. And I think they don't want to repeat that. They want this to be good. And so they know they got to make these partnerships, got to make them with a lot of AI companies so they can always stay on top. It's interesting what's going on. Listen, if you enjoyed the podcast episode today, if you learned anything new, Jamie and I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Over on Spotify, it's pretty easy. You just hit the About tab, and you can leave us some stars. On Apple, drop us a comment. Tell us some things that you like, some things that you love to see in the podcast. We like your feedback. We're always trying to make the show better. So we really appreciate all of you for listening, and we hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.